Welcome back to the Lobster Fight, the most listened to podcast in Monaco.
There it is. Cool.
Very, very exciting day today.
It is.
Today we have our very first guest on the Lobster Fight.
Yep.
And someone very special to us.
Yep. I'll do a brief introduction so the man doesn't have to do it himself. That would be poor guests. The name is Benjamin Sawney, and he is the brand owner of a lovely company that Sean and I are quite big fans of, I would say.
We highly support.
Which is a clothing apparel brand, and we happen to be in the very attire today. And with those words, I will allow Ben to elaborate a little bit more about himself.
Hello, guys.
Cheerio.
Good to see you. Good to see you on this side of the microphone. So Moné is a brand based in, I should say, Moné.
Moné,
Monte
yeah.
Carlo is born in Monaco. It's a, I wouldn't say menswear, I'd say definitely unisex.
Yeah.
But we'll go with it's resort wear, it's ready to wear. Born, I'd say, maybe 4 years ago. The idea was born 4 or 5 years ago. We're in a very different place now than we were back then.
Yeah.
We realized that there wasn't really a huge creative scene here in Monaco.
Yeah, because you born here or you moved here at a certain
Not at all.
age? Or?
So I was born in Manchester, in the UK. Moved here when I was 5 years old. Grew up here, then went back to the UK, then came back, then went back. So kind of bit of both.
Okay,
bit
cool.
Of both.
Very nice.
So yeah, as I was saying, there wasn't a huge creative scene here.
No.
Fashion's always something that I've been into.
Yeah.
So we figured out that there's a gap in the market here, and there's something that there's a story that needs to be told
Cool.
about this area, this region,
Yeah.
through clothing,
Yeah.
through fashion, not just Monaco, but the whole Côte d'Azur, the whole French Riviera,
Yeah.
all the way from Italy down to Marseille.
But
So there's so many interesting points to talk about. So
Yeah, we'll try to touch upon
we'll
some
touch
of them.
on a few.
Yeah, it's true. And Moné is the name of the brand. It's
Moné, exactly.
Why is that?
It comes from the word monégasque, which
Okay.
is somebody from Monaco.
Yeah.
And essentially, we thought that it is part of the roots of the brand. So
Yeah.
sounded nice, and here we are.
It's cool. It's very cool. It's short. It's concise, and everybody always that I've met at least are questioning the name at first. It's a likable name.
Actually,
It's
not
short.
a lot of people get it.
No.
Like, not a lot of people
No,
see
it's
that
true.
it's from monégasque.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I have with the brand a lot, is that for me, it's obviously in my head, it's so obvious. And then I realize that I have to join the dots for the people.
Yeah.
We'll get onto that a bit later
Yeah,
on.
but I think it's cool. I think it's a cool thing. But what first pops into my mind is what this brand means to you. Like, is it something that obviously you like the products yourself, I would believe, as you make them, but is it sort of your style that is pictured through this clothing apparel, or is it more just you being inspired by some culture here in the French Riviera a couple of years ago or decades, and then just putting it into a hole in the market? Or is it also just lots of passion and exactly what you would wear if it wasn't your brand?
I mean, definitely the reason why it exists is passion. I definitely design for what I would want to wear. I mean, I don't think I could ever design something I wouldn't want to wear and then actually put it out. But kind of in my head, we're designing for the modern monégasque, but who is inspired by all the vintage references, by the golden age, l'âge d'or, and all the way from, there's amazing references all the way from the 1920s and 30s, all the way through to maybe 80s, 90s. And then every single era was so different to what it is now, which is obviously what we see in the streets every day.
True.
So it's maybe hard to jump from our ideal outfit or uniform, should we say, from monégasque to what we see in the streets every day. So, but definitely I design for what I would want to wear.
Yeah.
I think that's just kind of a natural process. Also, I should mention that I'm not educated in fashion. I didn't go to design school, so I'm not as technical as other designers are. So I just kind of have a vivid idea in my head, and I try as hard as I can to get it, A to Z, get it on paper, then get it into fabric.
That's such a cool approach, because as you don't necessarily go into all the technicalities of making the products, you're trying to cooperate with people that have knowledge in these areas. It gives you maybe more space to be creative. side of the production.
Absolutely, yeah.
And exactly that for me, I can see lots of references from like your personality and some of the things. Like I'm wearing some crazy colored shirt today that
correct.
Once wearing it, I'm just overflowed by compliments and people who are very like intrigued, inspired. Like what are you wearing? Like what is this? And I always explain sort of the short story of what it means to me, and the way that when I wear this, it's a vibe. You put on a vibe, and I think lots of brands out there don't manage to create that. They don't have that touch.
They don't create a feeling once you wear it.
No, it's true.
It's like all of our summer shenanigans. Whenever we go anywhere, it's automatically put on the shirt and you're automatically in it. You're automatically having fun.
You are, yeah, it's true. And I think that's such a valuable thing to have, because lots of designer brands, they can make a similar fit, they can make a similar cut, similar fabric, but then you wear it as their brand. Here you wear like a story, you wear an age, like you say, the golden age of the French Riviera, right? And how do you think you've managed to, or your team has managed to bring that to the clothing itself? Because it's a bit of luck, I would assume, but also just being very like not niche but specific about what you want to make, and then do it.
Yeah, I think the first thing that needs to be said here is that if I wasn't brought up here, if I didn't have all this exposure to the region that we're in and the stories that are around us, and the architecture here and the climate and the landscapes and everything, I wouldn't have started a brand probably. I started it from the angle of, this is an incredible story to tell. Nobody's really doing it in Monaco. A lot of brands are pulling inspiration from Monaco. Obviously you would, because there's so much there. But if I wasn't based here, I probably wouldn't have started a clothing brand. So, you nailed it on the head. It is, you want to be wearing the brand and feeling like you are, it should lift you up.
Yeah.
It should lift you up. You should feel like, not necessarily a different person, but you should feel like a great version of yourself.
Yeah.
And, one of the biggest things for me, and especially like your guys' friends and people who we know who have bought the brand, there's been so many people who've come up to me at the beginning and said, that's so cool, but like I could never wear that. I could never wear that. And there's so many of those people who now have bought something or worn it and we've had such good feedback from them, just saying that they feel great wearing it. And, it sounds cliche to say, but it's you can wear whatever you want. As long as you wear it confidently and
that's it.
Like what you're wearing. So
yeah.
Definitely we've made some shirts which are way too out there for some people. But then other people, want more. So
exactly that.
I also find it very interesting that I feel like in certain situations you feel extremely, extremely confident, and like it even boosts your confidence. Or
that's amazing.
Or in other situations, I'm like, I don't think this place is ready for it yet. Like for example, last year,
there's been a few of those.
There are a few of those, but it's one of those things you feel like you kind of want to push it. Like for example, last year at Christmas, I was like, I kind of want to wear my Moné shirt.
Grandma, put this on.
told my mom. She's like, no chance.
Get that sweater on.
Your grandma's gonna have a heart attack. Ended up still wearing it.
Oh, yeah.
Everyone loved it afterwards. But it's also one of those things like, when you're in the moment, it's fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And the things that we do in summer, the things that people do in summer when they come here, not just tourists but locals as well, is that's the perfect environment where our brand shines, I think. And we've had it ourselves, like crazy compliments in beach clubs, in restaurants, and like
nightclubs.
nights
Can
out,
definitely
things
vouch
like that.
for that.
And we've spotted a few people in the shirts. In beach clubs,
amazing.
which is
That was
the best thing ever.
Super cool, because it's like sort of a niche still.
Totally.
And meeting other people that you don't know of at all in a public area and just immediately connect, because everyone that knows the brand will know probably the collection out, like all of the collection out. So I remember Sean and coming up to this woman that was wearing one of the shirts that were quite similar to the ones we were wearing this particular day. You weren't actually with us that day. And we just go up to this woman and be like, whoa, we have like
Super shirt.
Yeah, super shirt on, super
Love
shirt,
it.
super cool. And she immediately just, vibe with us. Like, it's like there's some mutual
Like you're part of a community, you're
Exactly.
part of a club.
Did you explain to her?
Yeah, we
you did.
didn't even explain that, we didn't need to elaborate anything.
Like
Well,
she almost elaborated in her own words how she felt when she was wearing the
Yeah,
shirt.
yeah, yeah.
And then how passionate her daughter was about it. And then how passionate their sons were about it.
Yeah, true.
That's like, oh, it's only here where you get these awesome shirts, so on and so forth. And that they really wanted to have them in Mexico and whatnot.
Yeah. These things, it's so funny. I remember sending a picture to you and you were like, this stoked me up.
I
Like,
remember
because-
that, like a long-range video zooming in on this
Exactly.
lady wearing one of the shirts.
Exactly. And then,
Which is a cool, like, it's the best feeling ever.
must be.
To see
I
that.
can only imagine. Can only imagine.
But it haven't just been normal people wearing your shirts. You've had quite a few very kind of high publicity people.
Yeah,
Who
we've
are
had a
some of
few.
your
We've been definitely lucky with working with like great stylists this year, especially this year. Great press as well. We've had some awesome features in press, like mainly in the US, but also some in UK. We had a huge boost when I first started the brand, and I was just running it out of my bedroom at uni in the UK. I had like a corner of the room which was just hats, and it was just like these baseball caps, black like brushed cotton baseball caps, with just like Moné like in white on the front.
Yeah.
I think we ordered 100 back then, and back then I was like, that's too many hats. And so obviously we shifted loads to our friends at the beginning, which has always been like, I'm always so grateful for that, for friends who buy into it, even if they're going to wear it once and then never again, but like at least they're supporting. So
Makes sense.
and then one day I woke up to see pictures of Tom Holland wearing it on some press tour in Japan for the Avengers, one of the Avengers films. And like that was the first time where I was like, what is happening? Like I don't understand. I knew how it had happened because I had met a friend of his and we got to talking and things like that. But I never thought that I would actually see it happen,
Yeah.
See it on a picture.
Yeah, and you can imagine his fan pages on Instagram and Facebook and everything. So all these kids were just going crazy, and we were receiving orders for like 16 caps. And they were like 45 euros at the time, so it's not cheap.
Not at all.
16 cap orders to Japan.
Christ.
And I'd have to go and find a box that fits 16 caps in it and send it to Japan from uni. So that was the first time where I was like, wow, like you feel the power in just like a picture like that.
It's true.
So
Maybe.
It
No, I
definitely
didn't want to interrupt.
No, it changes your outlook on how you should be dealing with, or how you should be targeting. I don't want to say influencers, but people who are influential.
Yeah.
Which is such a logical thing now looking back. But at the time, you don't really think to just like knock on the door and give people.
I imagine
that.
We don't really want to be someone that just gives out free products in a way. You want them to wear it because they actually like it in a way and vibe with it. It's like putting the shirt on everyone might send an interesting picture that might fit exactly what you want. But I think you're very lucky in the way that most of the people that end up wearing your things are quite similar to your main customers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, that's partly thanks to stylists, because obviously the stylists know exactly what would look good on their clients.
Yeah.
And luckily we get a lot of stylists coming to us saying, we'd love this for this client. And then sometimes sometimes it's great. Sometimes we're like, no chance. We don't want this said person wearing our stuff. So we just say no. And I think you have to be selective.
Yeah, you do.
You definitely have to be, no matter how big they are, because at the end of the day, you're not guaranteed any return or gain from some certain person wearing it. They can have millions and millions of followers and do nothing.
Yeah.
And you can have some guy who has 20k followers who makes really, really good content, has a really, really loyal fan base.
True.
And it can just like blow up.
Yeah.
Your follows, like your sales, just from like one post. So
that's it.
It's not linear at all. It's not obvious.
So what was your second kind of moment where you're like, oh wow, this is actually going somewhere?
I would have to say our first feature in GQ, when I woke up in the morning and had a message from one of the writers there, and he was like, just sent a link.
Yeah.
And I just went on it, and it was one of the recommends articles, which was like top 15 items to buy this week, and one of our shirts was in there.
There you go.
And I was like, whoa. And I was like, so big for us, so big.
Big for anyone, I would say.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And like, you know, the GQ guys have been so good to us. We've been featured in there like I think 6 or 7 times now in these articles.
That's just awesome.
It's just nice to build a relationship and just to see that these products are appreciated, and not just that, but to see the actual like conversions from those articles, and to see the return, and to see how many clicks are coming from GQ like on our website. So it's that was definitely the second biggest moment where I just remember just like being to the boys like, oh my god, like GQ.
Yeah.
And then
something.
But then the goalpost moves, right?
Yeah,
so
exactly. Of course it does.
Moves, and then you have something else, which like I'm sure a day soon I'm gonna wake up and be like, oh my god, like this is way bigger than that.
Yeah. I think that's the way it should be as well.
Yeah.
Have you had another moment like that since then?
Probably the day where we were messaged from a men's fashion director from like a big chain store in the US who messages us saying like, what's your email? And I was like, okay. Like looked at him and was like, okay, this guy's a big deal. Like, why does he want to speak to us? Fast forward, they placed an order with us, so we're going to be in their stores in a few months' time. So
that's super.
We can get onto that a bit later, but that was
we'll
obviously
maybe
a huge,
amazing
business mountain to get through. But that was definitely, you know, a first order from an account as big as they are. We would never expect them to come to us and then kind of accept all of our terms. So like, you know, we were going step by step, and I was like, why are they saying yes? Why are they saying yes? Expecting at the last minute them to just be like, no.
Yeah.
And then they paid us, and I was like, right, now we've got to make this stuff.
Here we go. Yeah. I think one of the questions that pops up into my mind since you are featuring on the Lobster Fight is obviously how you won that first fight. Like, how did you get yourself on this pattern, or your team ID get on this pattern of making these small incremental moves of winning in your industry, in your niche? And like, if you can remember a certain time, whether it being before you actually began or beginning, or you know, if it was further in, that you had these wins that we like to talk about, where you felt, okay, now I have momentum.
Yeah.
Now I just need to retain this momentum, and with that momentum, you know, it can go anywhere. Like you, for example, said with this expansion to the US market as well, which is huge, and retail sources.
Yeah,
it's massive. But I don't know if you can like pick one moment in time or an experience that you can remember that was like, this is where, you know, it started from in a way.
I mean, there's been so many small fights, you know, like you have small fights every day.
True.
At the beginning, I think it's definitely probably a part of it is a confidence game, and being like, okay, I've got this idea. Should I do it? Should I not do it? And then just kind of edging more towards like, yeah, let's do it. And then being like, okay, but is it just going to be a total waste of time, or has it got potential, or am I going to be all into this? Because if you're not all into it, you know, it's probably not going to succeed as you want it to. So I think there's a lot of that at the beginning. Obviously, like I said, we started it super small. We made some hats. And then I think the first win was being like, oh, we've actually made money on these hats that we made, and we weren't really expecting anything from it. It was kind of a trial.
Yeah.
So that's like the first small win. And then you're like, okay, well, let's do something else. Like, let's make a different color. Same happens again. You're like, okay, like, let's keep going. Let's see what else we can do. Made some T-shirts. You know, they did okay. We made some more money, and we were like, okay, well, now we're kind of on a roll here.
Yeah.
And I'd say probably like when I left uni, I was in a place where I was like, well, I either have to go quite hard into this now and commit to it and put proper effort in and build a proper structure and get in the help that I need, because you have to look at yourself as well and be like, okay, I'm not bad at this, but I'm not very good at this. I'm not very good at this. Somebody is better at this than I am.
Makes sense.
So for me, personally speaking, it makes more sense to bring somebody in who can do that way better than you can.
Yeah.
And you use them, and you work together, and you form a partnership and team spirit and everything. So for me, that was definitely production side. It's such a minefield, and like, anyone else who's ever tried to make any clothes will definitely agree with me, especially when you have absolutely no idea what you're doing. And you're literally going onto Google and typing in like factories in Portugal, you know, like there are many.
You produce in Portugal, yeah?
We make mostly in Portugal, yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. Very cool.
Mostly in Portugal.
I just have like one memory of a class in school, a logistics class, about you all right, make one product, choose one product, find your production, find your suppliers,
I remember you coming to me with that, actually.
Yeah, I'm making it in one country, shipping it to another, distributing from there. And I was like, Ben, can you just elaborate how on earth this is possible in real life? Because for me, just doing that in a class was like, all right, this is a maze that I'm never going to find out how to get out of.
Yeah. Actually, I mean, the logistics side of it is, I don't want to put you down here, but that's the easy part.
Yeah, imagine.
The hardest part is to find a factory which is, one, good, makes good clothing, two, is ethical, like treats their staff well, is as eco-friendly as possible, big asterisk there. One that you can build a relationship with the team, one that you can speak to, you can kind of rely on them and have confidence in them to get back to you, tell you when there's problems, because that's a huge thing that I've learned over there, is that a lot of things go wrong.
Yeah, I imagine.
You want to make a t-shirt, it's probably got to go to at least 3-4 different places in Portugal, which could be different countries. It just, everything gets outsourced. And along each of those steps, there's going to be several problems, and nobody's telling anyone, because it's like, oh, we'll fix this before there's actually a big problem.
Yeah.
And, luckily, touch wood, there haven't been any huge mess ups yet.
No.
But like I said, like that, all of this needs to happen before you actually have a point where you can be like, here is our logo. Can you put it on this t-shirt now? And so the main point from all of that is that, we're lucky to work with a production company in London.
Okay.
A guy called Mike Key, who is excellent at what he does.
Yeah.
His knowledge is insane. He worked for this British brand called Liam Hodges. We met when I took this fashion course when I was at uni, and he was one of the mentors there.
Cool.
And I remember we had like 2 or 3 phone calls over 10 months, so not a lot.
No.
And I remember he was the guy who, when I got on the calls with him, he was like, that is shit. I hate that. And he was just like, that's really bad. And I was like, okay. And at the time, like, I didn't know him. We weren't friends. Whereas now he tells me that every day. So I'm used to it. But back then, you spent months making this t-shirt.
Oh, God.
And it was a terrible t-shirt. It was terrible. Or hoodie or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But he was, I remember that. And then I came across him a few years later. And I was like, what are you doing? He was like, what, like, how are you getting on? And I was like, actually, I'm struggling big time with these factories. And he was like,
some Elbia.
I can make this shirt for you. We made that. It was really good. Then he was like, okay, I can make some more for you. And then he was like, right, I'm not making any more for you until you like become my client. So I was like, okay, fine.
Let me become a client then.
Yeah. So we work kind of like, I speak to him almost every day.
Okay.
He does everything between the kind of design, even though he, has input on the design, everything from the design to the factory.
Yeah.
He faces the factory. So anything goes wrong, he deals with it. And a lot of the time doesn't even tell me that something's gone wrong.
That's super cool.
He just handles it. So, I can trust him 100%.
That's awesome.
Takes a huge weight off my shoulders.
Yeah. Imagine finding people that you work well with is always key. Like, if you have to have struggles, trying to communicate about it, it's just a hustle. You can't let the creative process, take the kind of time and space that it requires. I imagine.
I just also think you can't be good at everything.
No,
you can't do everything.
No.
So,
and you don't have enough time in a day to actually do everything.
Absolutely not. Yeah.
Are you sure about that, Sean?
Well, it depends. Apparently, we have 3 days in a day.
Motivational quotes. I don't know if you have anything in mind that pops up, but I do have quite a few things because it's an interesting story, and I think we've touched upon it in quite of a linear way, and into the point where personally I met you, we got to be friends. Sean and I were friends prior to that, and we all became good. I would consider good friends. No,
extremely good friends.
I think we're friends. Yeah.
That's cool.
I don't know.
That's also
some might say so.
Yeah. No,
he's letting us down here, guys, but it's all right. But anyway, I wanted to ask you if you find like strength. We've talked a bit about inspiration, so I would rather want to talk about this momentum of you having this fire on an everyday basis that brings you to where you want to be with the brand, and where that fire or that energy comes from. Because I know from my personal experience, I gain a lot of energy, a lot of like positivity, happy days, as I like to say, from working out. And we happen to work out like quite a lot at the gym. And that's why I met you actually in the
Correct.
gym. You were working out with another mutual friend of ours now, Emanuele.
Also a big fire in him as well.
Yeah, huge fire in the guy. He's really, his fire that doesn't stop burning, basically. No. And I remember this was me signing up to this gym that we go to, Club 39 in Monaco, shout out. And I was looking at you and him on a daily basis, working out in the gym, doing lots of like different stuff, lots of CrossFit, lots of throwing around weights, and like couldn't really find any heads and tails in the workouts anyway. But I was really intrigued by how you were just getting after it every day, like getting after it every day. I was trying my best, coming there, training by myself. But I was seeing you two just having this great dynamic of just pushing each other and meeting up there. I was trying to be there kind of like 7 o'clock every morning, every second morning, doing my best. You guys were always there. You're always there at 7 on the dot. You'd go running, and I'd be like freaking out because I wasn't really good at running at the time being. And just seeing you guys going out for that run, I felt like intrigued in a way that, because I see you were out there pushing it. You'd come back drenched. I would have been in the gym for an hour, and I'd be like, yeah, I worked out as well. I'm all right. And but you really inspired me in the way that you were just getting after it every day. And fast forward a little bit, we started working out together at the gym, you, me, and Emmanuel as well. And I felt that power of, let's say, being in a group of individuals that just brings each other up, that just reinforces positive energy, that just, gets the fire burning in each other. And from that moment on, that really enhanced my training with also being with you, eventually Sean as well, is the way that gives me energy in a day. And I just wanted to ask if the same applies to you, or if you find it elsewhere. I don't know.
I mean, the point about the group is huge, I think. It's huge. And obviously everybody knows that, if you're doing something, if you're pushing, if you're training, if you're trying to achieve something on your own, it's potentially more difficult than if you're in a group. And especially, like, let's talk fitness for a second. But, if you're working out, if you're running on your own, it's just easy to stop, isn't it? It's easy to just be like, well, there's no one here, like, it's only me, like, oh, I'll just call it a day here. Yeah. Like, you need some accountability. And I think a lot of people that I talk to who see the nonsense that we get up to are like, why do you do that? Like, why would you?
That's the
why
first
would you even leave
reaction,
the house to go and do that? And I don't really have an answer. Like, it's like I don't really we've spoken about this quite a lot. I don't really have an answer of why you would want to
put yourself
suffer,
through that pain.
but like you do suffer, but in a good way.
The feeling afterwards is the best reward you can get.
Absolutely, yeah.
I agree.
But
just like our run the other day.
That was tough.
That was painful.
But just the fact that you are in a group doing something potentially that you wouldn't be doing on your own.
Yeah.
Firstly, it pushes you, like you are together, so you have like companionship, let's say.
Yeah, true.
And secondly, like if it gets tough, then somebody else is next to you also suffering. And if they're not suffering, then you're like, well, I can't stop. I can't stop.
Well, that's exactly how I felt.
That's how you
back
kind of got
in
into
the
it,
4x4x48.
Yeah.
I mean, that was still one of the... I feel like that's a great group dynamic that we have, is that we do many things in various extremes. So the way you got me to do the 4x48 was we were out in London having drinks. We were very much, I think, 9 pints in. 11.
We didn't have to say the number of pints, did we?
We were pints in.
We were pints in. And then you were trying to convince me to do it. And I was like, nah.
Yeah.
But we ended up doing it. And I was looking at you guys, and you guys weren't even suffering. And after the second run, I was just sitting there crying more or less that I could barely walk.
Which is normal. Totally normal.
Completely normal.
But yeah, no, going back to the fire point, I mean, also difficult question, because I think you can draw a lot of parallels from kind of physical stuff, going into business stuff.
Yep.
And it's the same fire, that burns for both.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you're in that, it goes back to kind of habit, when you have built that habit, and when you're used to that feeling of doing something that someone else may not do because it's a bit hard, but you kind of enjoy that.
Yeah.
Once you build that like over and over and over and over and over again, and maybe Sean, like you are a great example of, explaining that because yours was quite recent in terms of you getting into this habit. Like you went from 0 to 100 essentially.
Yeah,
It's true.
So as soon as you feel that habit, it does become a habit and you no longer think about it. You think about it in the other way, like, oh, I've not actually done anything today. Feel a bit weird.
Yeah.
well, and
like-
then it's also, I feel like it's one of those things that when you have friends that do the same thing,
Yeah.
then it encourages you so much more.
Absolutely.
Like,
Absolutely.
when
You
we
don't
did
need to
our-
make a decision because you're like, well,
Well,
something's happening.
I have to do it.
I'm going to be there at 7. I
Yeah.
don't know what's happening, but something's happening.
Yeah.
And like people listening are probably going to be like, that's very unhealthy. That is very unhealthy.
No,
You should have rest days, all this type of stuff.
Could be. Yeah, you could be. But I think that you can just the sheer dopamine release you get when working out in groups or whatever. Like for me, it's something that I bring on if I train or do something in the morning, it goes straight into whatever I'm doing after that.
Absolutely.
And I would imagine the same being for you.
Absolutely.
Being in an industry where mostly people, they come up with, this is my personal interpretation of the industry, people coming up with creative ideas from a point of, just being creative with their minds and not allowing their body to be like out there.
Yeah,
alone.
maybe. Yeah.
And I think maybe that could be one of your strengths, is that you're used to using like your whole body and mind at the same time, and then going and trying to grow this business on the side.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good point. I think more than that, it's about energy, it's about motivation, it's about momentum. Going back to momentum, if you smash a workout in the morning or a run or something, I get to my desk and I'm wired and I'm like you're ready to just do it, like keep the momentum going and just do as much as you can. And not just throughout the day, but throughout the month, throughout the year, and it's a momentum thing. And once you get used to that momentum, it's no longer something that you think about, and you're just kind of not cruising, because that sounds bad, but like you are comfortable there.
Yeah. Perfectly uncomfortable.
Perfectly uncomfortable is what we should say instead, because I don't think comfortable is a good thing.
No.
So, but you're uncomfortable, but in a sense of how to handle it, but you want more. You want to achieve more and more and more.
Yeah.
And I think all of these things kind of mix together, and they all connect to each other, and they all influence each other positively.
It's an interesting thought. I think, I don't know if you had.
No, go for it.
I was thinking, like, in terms of the brand, that do you then sometimes put yourself in that perfectly uncomfortable situation with being like, okay, I have this idea of a design, or I have this idea of this new product that I want to wear that you don't see everywhere. I don't see it every here and now and then, and just like be okay, if it gives me this little chill about being an uncomfortable, uncertain, choice, but I'm going full on into it, that you have this idea will be successful about it. Is that something that you use when you design, or when you have these ideas, creative ideas?
Absolutely. And, going back to the point of, I didn't study fashion, so automatically I am uncomfortable doing all of this technical design stuff.
That's cool.
So I think I attack it from a different angle, and I'm like, I go from the end goal. I'm like, I know that I want to make something like this. It should be a bit like this, but definitely not this, definitely not that, definitely not this.
Mm-hmm.
And then somehow, obviously working with Mike, production team, we get to a place where we're like, okay, no, I think that's nice. And, that's the process. That's the process. But being uncomfortable is definitely something I've had to get used to in the fashion world, and not just design stuff, but, not just the business side, but the crowds, the industry, the people, and meeting people. And it's such an interesting industry, and like you meet so many people every day, which is one of the things that I love about it, to be honest. That is, I think, one of the things that I look for in life in general, is to meet as many people as possible
there.
And just learn from people. And just listen and watch them. And
you travel a lot.
Yeah, definitely too much, I would say.
Too much traveling. Do you use some of that traveling when you?
Do you get inspirations from the different places you go to?
Yes, definitely. I think less places and more people and situations, and not people in the sense of like, oh, he was wearing that, so I'm going to make one of those, but like the things that people tell you, and the things you see how different people see the world, and you see how, for us, in our unique situation, our brand is based in Monaco. It's not we're not 100% Monaco, but we're French Riviera. And obviously everybody who I speak to about the brand has a comment about Monaco or the Côte d'Azur or whatever.
They always have a picture.
Yeah, they have their own picture, right?
Yeah.
And that is the most interesting thing for me to hear about. Like, how do you see Monaco?
Yeah.
Because there's so many different opinions, and it's like, it's a bit Marmite, some people are like, ugh, that place is, shallow, blah, 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 blah. Other people are like, wow, it's magical. It's like, it's beautiful. It's so interesting. And, there's two sides to everywhere.
It's vibrant.
It's so interesting to hear about what people think of the place and how people see the brand and how much people are looking, where people are connecting the dots. Are people being
imagine.
like straight to Monaco, being like, oh, this is a bit like this brand. This is a bit like, resorty. Like, it's just interesting to hear people's opinions. And because I'd say it's quite a mysterious place. Like, not a lot of people actually know a lot about it. People are like, okay, Grand Prix, casino, cars, great. Like, that is like
That's a cliche
for
right
a
there.
lot of people.
True.
Especially a lot of our market is in the US.
Yeah.
We hear that a lot.
Yeah.
And that's all people know about it. So that's when I turn on myself and think, well, now it's your job to explain what you're doing here.
Educate through what you're doing.
Yeah. And just tell people the story and tell people all of these interesting things that maybe we take for granted because we're surrounded by it. And, we'll drive past a certain old building and just not blink twice. But it has such this insane story behind it and, what was once happening in there. And Monaco's a place which has been touched by so many different powers.
Yeah.
It's been Italian, it's been French, it's been German. It has so many different cultural influences on it, which you can see clearly.
Yes.
If you dig deep enough.
Imagine.
So.
And it's a small place.
And it's a tiny place
that has all of that.
You can see like the area that you need to dig in. It's not too big. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's our job to find out how to bring the story out through clothes.
I think you're doing a very interesting job with it. With it also being these different, like for example, what I am wearing right now, supporting here, in my favorite shirt, which is the Monte Carlo Grand Prix shirt from 1950.
37, I think.
37, 1934.
34.
Yeah. 34. You're right, 1934. Like Grand Prix going back all the way to then.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we need to depict this on a shirt. How do we do that? Super cool. And then you have, Sean's wearing something here that's.
A bit of knitwear.
Bit of knitwear.
Bit of knitwear there.
A t-shirt knitwear.
Bit of a winter style.
In a summery attire being a t-shirt, but it's vastly different. Yet there is a red line that connects all the dots.
Yeah.
And I think that's for me what is super cool is that you don't just do denim or you don't just do hoodies. You don't just do this t-shirt caps like all of these small niche brands do. You really have the courage to go out and like do a shirt that looks like this, and then you will see like for me personally what I saw was like a year after you have brands like Paul Smith. What's that other one that comes to mind? Maybe Itro or something like that. Like big brands that trying to do these fits, and I will try one on, and it won't feel correct. It won't feel right because I'm used to wearing this type of stuff, and it's not necessarily just about the fabric. It's also that there's something about the cut. There's something about it. I'm not biased here by any means, but it's just I have a lot of people that would say the same. Coming back to the story of people saying I can't wear that.
Yeah.
And then actually wearing it and feeling great, feeling confident about it. I think it's cool that with this brand you're able to open people's horizon in the fashionable world and like make them see older stuff or older styles being very cool now. Like for example, I would have never imagined myself a shirt like the one Sean's wearing right now, and it being like one of my favorite shirts to wear. It's super interesting. Like I style it with a lot of different things that I don't think about, does this match, does this not match? Because I just feel great in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's super cool. I think that's it's a unique thing to have. And with that, I was thinking, any future plans or any future, endeavors of Moné that you can maybe elaborate a little bit about or not at all?
I mean, broadly speaking, widen the Monégasque uniform that we're slowly building. We've released only one pair of trousers so far, which we're working on a 2.0 version, working on a winter version, which is going to be a heavier wool.
Yeah.
With some more old school details, I'll say, rather than modern. Definitely a lot more knitwear, more resort wear, various, basically widen the uniform to all of the different styles that we've ever looked at. We have some really nice knit vests coming this summer.
Cool.
Playing with different techniques. We've been doing knitwear for a few seasons now, and it's super popular. So something that we kind of fell into as well. Like, I don't really. A lot of things happen, and I look back and I'm like, I don't really know why we did that, but we did it, and I'm glad we did.
Yeah.
And so this happened several times, and we're really pleased with how people are responding to knitwear. So we're playing with some different techniques now, various different factories. We have some hand crochet shirts coming as well. So
fancy.
There's going to be more interesting and more. What's the right word? More dulled down, easy to wear pieces. Because you have to have both. You have to have both.
So something more accessible.
More accessible for a consumer who loves the brand, loves the story, but hand on heart would not wear even a short sleeve shirt. Like we have friends
these are the Italians that are very religious about being long sleeved
and white socks.
And white socks, mostly not white socks, but white socks. You're right.
Yeah, not white socks.
Not white socks. Exactly what. But that's interesting.
But yeah, so I mean, we've had our friends be like, yeah, no, I really like it, but I just don't. I do not wear short sleeve shirts.
Yeah.
Like, fine, fair enough. Like I'm not going to try and convince you then.
No, it's true. But for me, coming like from Danish culture, like I think the fashion industry around Denmark or whatever we wear in Denmark, it's really like casually just, I wouldn't say boring.
It's not very loud though.
It's not loud, exactly. It's not very colorful. It's not very out there.
Yeah.
And I think...
And then you show up.
And then I show up, in my uniform of the Monégasque here, and people, they love it. I have lots of friends in Denmark that, have come up and be like, I want that.
Yeah.
And
we actually sell quite a bit to Denmark. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of you. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Be on commission soon. But
thanks to everyone that's listening that knew me that bought a shirt here. No, but I think it's cool because these fashionable trends in the north mostly, like Sweden, Norway, Denmark, are not colorful. You come here, and you have people wearing beautiful dresses, like these shirts, men's shirts with lots of colors. People dressing up to look nice, to feel good. And I think with this, you're managing actually to influence certain markets that are maybe a little bit more boring at heart, or just more plain simple. Yeah, I think that's super cool. But you're doing anything in the north, or you're going to be there present, or is it just, e-commerce that just happened to go there, or?
Yeah, I mean, our customer base is extremely varied. Like we sell all around the world, which sounds like such a general thing to say, but I would probably be wrong if I guessed. If an order came in, if I tried to guess the country, I'd probably be wrong.
Awesome.
So that's really interesting to see, and it's amazing that it's been picked up by so many different places, also with different climates. Because we started as primarily, we were releasing summer products, which is something that we're trying to diverge from now and do more winter bits and more knitwear, long trousers, winter trousers, this type of thing. So
it'll be exciting.
It's very interesting, very very interesting.
I'll be excited to wear that.
Now, before we kind of start concluding the entire episode, if you were to start all over again, now knowing what you've done, what mistakes you've made, what not, what would you do different?
This is the point where you say nothing.
No, it's definitely not that point. What can I say on this podcast? What I would say, I think the biggest thing for me, and it's something where like a really, really good childhood friend of mine, Mike, has come on board with me recently. He handles PR,
cool,
marketing, a lot of that stuff, and he's like, I'd say the devil on my shoulder, but in a good way, where he's just like, just do it, and I'll be like worrying about. I don't know if it's us, but just do it. Just do it. And, 9 times out of 10, it has worked or it's been good. And I think that before he came along, I was always second guessing whatever we were doing. And maybe it's because I felt like it was like a reflection on me, even though I never wanted it to be. And I'm careful of it not being.
Yeah.
I think I was just always just a bit like, ooh, maybe that's not going to work, or that, like, people are not going to like that. And he would just be like, just do it. And so I'm slowly trying to get into the habit of being just kind of taking a risk and being like, you can't please everyone.
Yeah.
Not every product can sell out.
No.
And so it's like, just do it, just take the risk. As
So
long as
trying
you've
to take more
calculated
risks.
a lot to get to this decision point, it's probably going to be fine.
That's cool.
And if it's not, then
So be it.
I'll go and do something else.
Go on then to the next shirt.
Yeah, it's true. So but let's try to conclude it. Like, how can people follow Moné if they don't already? Like, how do people
can
get to
they
know the
buy?
brand?
So on Instagram, which is kind of our most active platform,
Yeah.
it's Moné Monte Carlo altogether, MONE Monte Carlo. Same domain for the website, monemontecarlo.com. Sign up to our mailing list, I'd say, because that's the kind of, that's where new products land. You'll see it in your inbox.
Content.
That's how you buy it.
Awesome.
And then, I mean, just, like, thanks for having me, guys. I mean,
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, mate.
Thank you for
Absolute
being on
pleasure. Like,
board.
to be honest, like, maybe 80% of this I wasn't aware of, you know, like your story, your thoughts about it, like how you use your energy, how you use your, you know, the people around you, like how it all come together to create this brand that I like to call one of my favorite brands to wear, because it's so different. It's just vastly different. And I think it's really interesting that how you've managed to make a difference and continue to do it. So really pleasure from my side. Absolutely pleasure.
Thank you, boys. Thank you. And
Thank
I have
you
to
very
say
much.
thank you for you two for supporting so much. I think I have you two are the biggest spending customers literally sat at this table.
I'm happy to
even
do
with
that.
discounts. So,
Yeah.
you know, that means so much. And, you know, a week ago or so, we went out and 5 out of 5 of us were wearing it.
Yeah,
And,
it's true.
Like, we're kind of used to it now, but sometimes I step back and I'm like, that's insane.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have to wear it, but they're wearing it.
No,
you know?
I'm doing it. I thoroughly really enjoy
Except
wearing
today.
it.
Today you have to wear it.
Yeah, today I'm feeling, you know, feeling swag over here.
Exactly.
It's a style, definitely. Well, awesome,
On that
matey.
note,
Nice, guys.
Pleasure.
thank you very much.
Absolutely.
What a pleasure.
Happy days.
Happy days.